Hi, everybody. Give me just a second so that I can get this shared on as many platforms as possible really quickly. In the meantime, you guys can definitely come in and let me know where you're viewing me from. And you can also let me know how you are faring in response to COVID 19 and a reintroduction into normative behavior in society right now. Okay, I think I have gotten it shared in most places, and we are pretty much ready to start. So, um, as the video title states, Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. The month of May 2020 is the month that we are currently in. The month of May features a host of practitioners who strive to destigmatize mental health and mental health awareness. So I'm here today to talk to you guys about the state of our mental, emotional, and behavioral health in response to COVID 19. I think that we would be remiss to not address that because right now we're facing a global pandemic and a reintroduction and back into society again. And talking about these things, I think, are or should be the highlight of this month. So, what I wanted to do at the onset of this particular video is to invite you guys to explore your personal biases when it comes to seeking out the services of a trained mental health provider. Sometimes we find ourselves paired up with someone who we feel like doesn't look like us or doesn't identify with us. And I think in these times, we need to challenge ourselves to be out of that mindset and then being mindful of the fact that we definitely need to be seeking balance or equilibrium for our lives. We need to move into a space of acceptance that everybody is going to be different. And if we want a positive outcome after all of this, we have to do something different ourselves. We have to find ways to recondition our mind, if you will. So I've made a few notes here, and that's going to help me kind of get through all of the points that I wanted to talk about during this video because I do want to keep this month's reflection under 30 minutes. So, as I said, Mental Health Awareness Month is a month to highlight the health of our mental, emotional, and behavioral faculties. I think that we need to have a clear understanding of what those things mean or what those components are in order for us to make sure that we highlight them well. So, I'll start by talking about what it means when we talk about the mental component. There is a stigma associated with seeking out the services of trained mental health professionals because people think that there is something quote unquote wrong with them if they do seek out the services of one. And so it doesn't mean that there is something wrong with you. Start by saying that. It means that as you are an individual who lives life, who's traveling and navigating this journey of continuous evolution, balance is something that is a necessary component to you being functional in all domains of your life. And so when you seek out those services, they may be preventative, they may be reactive, but in any case, they are in response to you needing help or guidance, or sometimes just an external ear, right? Somebody to vent to, so that you have optimal functionality in all domains of your life. So, amidst our current social collaborative trauma, and what I mean by that is that as a society of people in every country at this point, we're facing this global pandemic together. And it's a traumatic event because something in your world, my world, all of our worlds has been shaken. the way that we view life, the way that we view our homeostatic balance, or that is our norm, right, in functioning, has to have changed. Even if we are in a place of resistance right now and we don't want to admit that we have shifted and we have changed our views, it has. And this has taken place kind of forcibly. So the question is now, how do we respond and how do we create a new balance that reflects health and wellness of the mind, of the emotion, and of our behaviors? I think that some of us have been physically affected by COVID-19, and being physically affected by it, we've gotten sick. And if you're watching this right now, that means that you survived it. You have allowed your body to create antibodies and you've stayed your course. So other people have been emotionally secondarily affected because they've had family members who have been sick and some of them have died. I think that so I think that ways for us to be able to, one second, my internet is not stable, so I'm just going to switch gears here. So I think we are back on. Let me see. So if you guys can hear me, just let me know so I know that you're still there, that I still have a good connection. Okay, I think we're back running. So, as I was saying, is the way that we need to focus on attaining that equilibrium has a lot to do with our understanding of what we're currently going through. And so, when we're talking about the emotional impacts, we want to talk about how we are currently grieving, if we're grieving, how we're processing our emotions, and how we're relating to our current state of mental, emotional, physical health, even, um, as well as our behavioral health. And so we need to understand those components. So I think that we have to keep in mind that addressing the issues that are at hand, like anxiety, depression, increased rates of suicide numbers across the board. People feel helpless sometimes. There are some people who are inside who are not used to being inside. They're very extrovert people and they like to be out. They like to be amongst people that are their friends, family members, and they like that physical contact. So I think now, as things start to reopen, they're very happy, they're very excited. And sometimes that leads to a lack of balance or a lack of insight. And what I mean by that is that the mindful piece of everything means to be cognizant and aware of the threat to your emotional security, but not only your emotional, mental, and behavioral security, but how those behaviors that you may be embarking upon could affect your physical health. So I want you to just take a moment to think about what reopening everything in your country, wherever you are, really means. It means that the economies will start to work again and eventually move to a level to where they're also thriving. But you need to consider or be mindful of how the world should be changing as a result of this global pandemic. And oftentimes, I think that we discredit the efficiency of seeking help from trained mental health professionals. But this is a time when I think that mental health professionals have to definitely um, be prepared to receive an influx of new clientele. And I think that people, as the general public, we have to accept the fact that we need to be talking to someone and processing the response that we have taken as far as our mental and our emotional faculties to being quarantined for excessive number of days. The reluctance for us to go out and be amongst other people, and the reluctance of us to build a new phase of life for us, right? To open up a new chapter and revisit what normative behavior looks like for us. So I think that we have to highlight that the focus on mental illness has always been a narrative that has been pushed, and it contributes to the stigma or negative light that this field of study is definitely looked upon in. And like I said before, if that's the reason that everybody sees this as a negative thing, but we don't have to accept that as our truth. We can move into a place of acceptance of the fact that we need to be balanced and we need to remain connected. And we need to do so while we're also cognizant of what the threats to our emotional and behavioral health are. And when we say that we are wanting to become more cognizant of those things, it requires us to sit down and process with an external ear how we're moving now in life, as opposed to previously. If we are truly adapting, or if we have decided to freeze ourselves in time and not respond appropriately. So, some of the new things that you guys can do to help to collaborate yourself into a sense of balance is reflective thought, or thinking about ways in which you've been affected by COVID 19, but also ways that your significant others have been affected and the other people that are connected components to you, whether it's by work or other associations, the way that you are interacting with them now versus previously, and the way that those things need to potentially change. So, when I say potentially change, I mean you have to just basically exercise some common sense values into the way that you approach life. For example, if you were talking about dating, that means that when we meet someone new, it needs to be done at a distance first and then reintroduce ourselves to what it looks like for us to connect on a physical level with those particular people. And that may involve you having a distance date. I think a lot of people have mentioned the Bumble app or something like that. It's a place for you to meet people, talk to them, maybe cook on your stove at home while they're cooking at their stove um, at home. And you guys are at a distance, but getting to know each other before you make that physical connection. I think being more curious about what people's routines consist of will put you in a better place to be able to be, around them socially and physically without putting your health at risk. So, some of the things that you guys can do to make sure that you are more aware is simply to understand all of the different components, what it means, and how the interconnected parts of your balance or equilibrium relate to one another. So, when I talk about mental, we're talking about your thoughts, or if you've ever heard the word get your mind right, your mindset. So these will be the thoughts and the balance of your brain or your mind. And when I say brainful, that means that your brain is there apparently. Chemicals in your brain react and they respond and they release chemicals to the rest of your body. Sometimes your blood flow in the brain is a little bit less adequate than other times because of distress and trauma like you're experiencing now. But if we're mindful, that means that we're aware of that particular stress that we're currently experiencing, the state of our health is not as detrimental, right? Because we know when to move those things to the side when they present as inadequate behaviors, which is the last one, or undesired behaviors. Because we know how we have collaborated with all of the different faculties of ourselves to say, okay, hey, this is how we need to be functioning in order for us to say that we are optimal in all areas of our lives. You know, that means that we don't need to be emotionally reactive, which leads me to the next one. That leads to our behaviors that are also undesired. And so your emotions are your expressions and your spiritual impact and mentality. This is what I like to call your feeling space, right? So it aligns with, I guess, the way that your spirit resonates with things, or how you feel as a result of how you're thinking. When I say that you need to be mindful instead of brainful, your brain is filled with information and insights from your experiences on a day to day. The way that you're processing those particular things, though, affect your thoughts and your perceptions of life as you navigate that piece. As a result of how you think about the things that you've experienced and how you even view the experiences that you may find yourself currently in and exposed to, you may decide to be very aware and be mindful. And like I said, remove those things that you deem to be inadequate behaviors or undesired behaviors when you see them coming so that you can be more in the here and now. That means you won't be so anxious. You won't be experiencing depression. You won't be experiencing reactive, emotional reactive responses. And what I mean by that is when you find yourself just being very, very defensive whenever someone presents their perception, instead of seeking to understand where they're coming from so that you can expand your mind's ability to receive information and also to understand on a global level what you're going through and potentially what they're going through from their insights, that kind of thing. So, your emotions, like I said, after they have reacted to the way that your mind is thinking about or feeling about what you're going through, typically triggers a behavioral response. And that, in the scenario that I just mentioned, would be you responding with words that are threatening, sometimes words that, intentionally hurt people's feelings. And sometimes you just simply block out all possible rational thinking altogether because you're only in your emotion brain. And so, what I challenge you guys to do is to become more mindful, expand your mind's capability to look at mental health instead of looking at mental illness, and think about the fact that it has to be normal for us to experience some level of distress, but the way that we manage that distress, not only in this month, not only in this day, but on a day to day, has a lot to do with whether or not we remain balanced and calibrated machines, in a sense. And so, as you connect with your parts, I challenge you guys to be a part of destigmatizing mental health and wellness now. I want you guys to challenge what you view as normative. And I want you to do so in a way that allows you to spread the word, spread the insights to other people that are connected to you, and challenge them to see a mental health and wellness practitioner at the onset of the opening everywhere of economies, because eventually everything will be open and we'll all be moving forward with life, but we need to do so in a different light. So I want to know what you have learned about yourself in order for you to contribute to your emotional maturation. That is my question for you guys as I wrap up. Hopefully, I have given you guys a little bit more insight so that you can drive your curiosity to a different level and elevate your game today. If you guys have any questions for me, you know where to reach me. But I want to also challenge you guys to communicate with each other, connect on this platform, regardless of what platform you're currently following me on, and start a conversation around destigmatizing mental health. Start a conversation around your emotional wellness, your mental wellness, your behavioral wellness. Start challenging some of the things that you notice that you do that you have already decided to say, hey, this is something that I need to work on, but you haven't quite gotten around to it yet. Start challenging some of your ideals around what is normative and what is not normative behavior. I want you guys to challenge yourself to create a new perspective on what it means to be calibrated or balanced. Right now, everybody's a little bit off. Everybody is a little bit anxious, and it's quite normal to be anxious in the light of a global pandemic, right? What's not normal is choosing to dismiss the fact that you have an emotional response to a global pandemic. Choosing to dismiss that you have a right to feel however it is that you're feeling, even if that is anxious and afraid. Walk in a different light. Allow yourself to navigate new paths. Reauthor your narrative and let it be reflective of your true growth and empowerment during this time. I invite you guys to explore. I invite you guys to insight new avenues, possibly new insights, possibly new conversations, new directions in your life in light of healing. If you're not already following me, if you're not already subscribed, please hit the like and the subscribe button wherever you are following me or viewing this video. And I look forward to exchanging dialogues with you guys as I check what your feedback is later. All right, later days, people.